Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to inform the participant in the Zoom call meeting that interpreter is available in English and Indonesian through the interpreter channel.
Good morning, distinguished guests and participants. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan.
We would like to give a warm welcome to His Excellency Acting of the Head of the National Archives of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Imam Gunarto.
Ambassadors of the Republic of Indonesia to Mexico, Mr. Cepi Tripaksono.
The honorable speakers, Ambassador of Mexico to Indonesia, Mr. Armando Gonzalo Alvarez. Special Advisor for UNRI in the field of maritime archives and experts on military, defense, and security, Mrs. Koni Rahakundini Bakri. American Director 1, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Iwan Freddy Hari Susanto.
Ambassador Designate of the Embassy of the Federative Republic of Brazil, Mr. Jorge Monteiro Prata.
Ambassador of the Embassy of the Republic of Cuba, Mrs. Tania Velasquez Lopez.
Ambassador of the Embassy of the Republic of Guatemala in Indonesia, Mr. Jacobo Cuyun Salguero. Welcome, sir.
Ambassador of the Embassy of Peru in Indonesia, Mr. Luis Suboyama.
Ambassador of the Embassy of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Mr. Radames Jesus Gomez Azuaje. Welcome, sir.
Charge the affairs of the Embassy of the Kingdom of Spain, representing the Ambassador of Spain to Indonesia, Mr. Diego Santiago Rivero.
Charge the affairs of the Embassy of the Republic of Ecuador in Indonesia, representing the Ambassador of Ecuador to Indonesia, Mr. Pablo Bonivas Arboleda.
Charge the affairs of the Embassy of the Argentine Republic in Indonesia, Mr. Juan Ignacio Lacunza.
Consul of the Embassy of the Republic of Chile in Indonesia, Ms. Camila Eggers.
Minister Counselor, Directorate for America 1, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Vicky Octanio.
Assistant Officers of National Archives of the Republic of Indonesia.
And distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Center for Presidential Static Archive Studies of the National Archives of the Republic of Indonesia.
And welcome to the International Seminar and Archives exhibition of
Panorama of 70 years of friendship and cooperation between Indonesia and Mexico.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we start, let me introduce ourselves. My name is Geral.
And my name is Diana.
And we will be hosting the opening ceremony today.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, firstly, we will start our program and event by singing the national anthem, Indonesia Raya, and Himno Nasional Mexicano.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be rise. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
For the next session, there will be an opening remarks by the Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to Mexico, to Mr. Cepi Triprakoso Wartono. The time is yours.
My friend, Your Excellency Armando Alvarez, Dr. Konirahan Kundini Bakri, Miss Octavia Sawarwati from ANDRI. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Let me begin by congratulating ANDRI and the Embassy of Mexico in Indonesia in organizing the archive and photo exhibition, Panorama of 70 Years of Friendship and Cooperation of Indonesia, Mexico. 70 years ago, precisely on April 6, 1953, Indonesia and Mexico's relationships formally began by the signing of joint declaration. Since then, Mexico has become one of our oldest friends in Latin American regions. The signing of this joint declaration was a much needed boost for Indonesia, which was still struggling to obtain political recognition from other countries. Soon enough, relationships between our two countries flourished, so much so that our President Sukarno visited Mexico for 3 times. On Sukarno's first visit, he made a speech before the Mexican Parliament, which he emphasized that even though our countries are geographically distant, its shores are raised by the same big ocean, the Pacific Ocean, that does not separate us, but actually bring us closer together. And now, decades after President Sukarno's first visit, Indonesia and Mexico relationship is still strong, bounded by the principle of solidarity, friendship, and mutual respect. This principle also brings the two countries to work together in various global forums, such as G20s, where Mexico has been very supportive to Indonesia's G20 presidency last year. Thanks to Mexico and other countries, our presidency led to consensus in multiple areas, particularly in food security, pandemic response and prevention, global tax agreement, price stability, and global clean energy. Through MICTA Forum, Indonesia and Mexico, along with Australia, Republic of Korea, and Turkey, strive to bridge the differences between developed and developing nations. As the current chair of MICTA, Indonesia will count on Mexico's support to continue MICTA agenda on being part of solution to various current global economic, food and security challenges. I want to also add that this year marks Indonesia's chairmanships of ASEAN, and we encourage Mexico to explore stronger friendship with ASEAN. As the Southeast Asia region provides commercial opportunities with more than 650 million population, commerce. For 50 years since its founded, ASEAN has prospered and become major contributor to peace, security, and economic cooperation in the region. In this sense, I believe that closer ties between Mexico and ASEAN will greatly benefit both parties. In economic field, in Latin America, Mexico is the third largest trade partner of Indonesia. Trade relations between Mexico and Indonesia have increased significantly even during COVID-19 pandemic, at which the export value from Indonesia to Mexico has risen from around $1 billion in 2019 to nearly $3 billion, or precisely $2,850 in 2022. This indicates the Indonesia and Mexico economic relation could be strengthened even more if we broaden the horizon and dig deeper to find more opportunities. Since our bilateral relations started 70 years ago, Indonesia and Mexico have remained strong economic and trade partners. But more needs to be done. Economic relations between our two countries have been further strengthened after the Expo Indonesia and Mexico 2023. We was successfully held on 3rd to 6th of August 2023 last week, resulting in potential transaction of nearly $20 million. This was the first ever single Expo Indonesia to showcase the potentials of Indonesia trade, investment, tourism, and culture. 59 Indonesian companies participated, along with the province or government of East Nusa Tenggara, West Papua, Central Java, and DKI Jakarta, as well as many Mexican estados from Colima, Guanajuato, Jalisco, Oaxaca, Querétaro, Quintana Roo, Tamaulipas, and as well Veracruz. To Indonesia, Mexico is the gateway for our export to Americas. With potential high market growth opportunities in many industrial sectors, Mexico also offers an excellent opportunity for Indonesian company to establish their operation in the region. There is a plenty of space that both of our countries could seize to further strengthen our bilateral relations. In the economic field, both countries need to further find resourceful ways on how to further match Indonesian businesses with Mexicans' demands to become more collaborative partners. Therefore, to support Indonesian economics diplomacy programs, Indonesia shall strengthen the socio-cultural and political cooperation so that a more comprehensive partnership can be realized soon. To expand the spirit of dialogue, collaboration, and inclusivity to make both our nation more prosperous, peaceful, and stable. In the socio-culture field, Indonesia and Mexico are both cultural powers due to our richness in history, peoples, belief, philosophy, and custom. Understanding both cultures through socio-culture exchange would be the key in strengthening ties between the two countries. Cooperation through education has been continuously established through agreements between universities to encourage collaboration and exchange of students, academicians, research projects, and learning experiences. Since 1996, each year Indonesia receives students from Mexico to learn and study Indonesian cultures, language, or to pursue academic degrees in universities all over Indonesia. These students are an asset of both countries in promoting our culture and in disseminating information about our countries in Indonesia and Mexico. Agreements in the field of culture, sport, and creative economy are also being finalized as the umbrella for closer cooperation between governments. It is indeed important for both governments to explore and pursue further collaboration in the field of our common interest to strengthen our bilateral ties. In conclusion, let's cherish this moment to commemorate the 70 years of excellent diplomatic relations between both countries. Much has been accomplished, but I'm sure that we could increase our bilateral relations even further, while also working together with other countries to actively contribute in major international forums and plays a constructive role in the international environment. Thank you to my colleague, my friend, my BA Armando, to organizing this great event, and hopefully with these seminars we'll give more complete information for our relationship. Viva Indonesia, viva Mexico. Vamos, vamos, Armando. My friend, Armando Alvarez, Dr.
Analyst and expert advisor of the head of ANRI for Maritime Affairs. Papa Iwan Freddy, Director for America One at MLU. My BA, my brother ambassador, Subes Bartono, Indonesian ambassador to Mexico. Dear colleagues from KEMLU and the Ibero-American Diplomatic Corps, Escalon officers of ANRI, ladies and gentlemen. Selamat pagi, teman-teman. It's for me a great honor to participate in this photo exhibition and seminar titled Panorama of 70 Years of Indonesia-Mexico Friendship and Cooperation at the prestigious Indonesian Historical Archive. As we all know, this year Mexico and Indonesia celebrate the 70th anniversary of diplomatic relations. Diplomatic relations between Mexico and Indonesia date back to the very creation of the Indonesian state, making it the oldest diplomatic relationship of Mexico, Southeast Asia. As this photographic exhibition shows, it has been 70 years of friendship, cooperation, and joint work in the main multilateral forums. Despite the geographical distance and amid turbulent global conditions, Mexico and Indonesia have seen growing interests and closer relationship recent decades. Both countries share a historical friendship and an extensive list of socio-cultural, political, and economic similarities which open important channels of communication. Today, as two emerging economies, both Mexico and Indonesia are active in and multilateral affairs with increasing importance in the international arena. Our ties are strengthened by mutual trust in international law and the multilateral system. Mexico and Indonesia share beliefs and values and mutual views on various international issues such as democracy, human rights, climate change, education, health, international peace and security, among many others. Both nations have shown a spirit of collaboration in multilateral initiatives that seek constructive solutions to global problems. This spirit is reflected through collaboration in various international organizations and forums in which the two countries share membership, such as the United Nations, the WTO, G20, APEC, MICTA, and FEALAC, among others. Our countries have developed a comprehensive cooperation framework that includes regular bilateral political consultations. Next week, we will have a session of these consultations, as well as instruments of cooperation in culture and education, science and technology, agriculture, energy, environment, air services, tourism, and export financing, while others are under negotiation. In recent years, this spirit of collaboration was further reflected during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, as well as during the Indonesian presidency of the G20 in 2022, whose priority themes were strongly supported by Mexico. Also, with the help of Indonesia, Mexico was recently invited to sign the ASEAN's Treaty of Amity and Cooperation. As the 15 and 16 largest economies in the world, Mexico and Indonesia are advocates of an open and fair international trading system. And as a result of this shared vision, bilateral economic relations have flourished in recent decades. Trade between the two countries shows an upward trend in recent decades. 2022, the bilateral trade reached an all-time high of 2.8 billion, with a significant surplus for Indonesia. To mark the 70th anniversary, both embassies have organized a series of activities in the two capitals. In this month of August, as Ambassador Chepi Wardono just mentioned, Indonesia held a great commercial, artistic, and cultural exhibition at the World Trade Center of Mexico City. Meanwhile, Mexico's embassy in Indonesia, in close coordination with the Indonesian Historical Archive, organized this photo exhibition and seminar to honor the memory of those who have contributed to to the excellent and mutually profitable relation that Indonesia and Mexico happily enjoy today. I reiterate my great appreciation to the Arsip Nasional Republik Indonesia and to all of you for your kind presence. Terima kasih banyak dan selamat menikmati pameran.
Thank you, Mr. Armando Gonzalo Alvarez.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the next one we will be listening to the welcome remarks by the acting of head of the National Archive of Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Ipam Gunarto. The floor is yours, sir. Please give a big round of applause for Mr. Imam Gunarto.
The Honorable Ambassador of Mexico to the Republic of Indonesia, Your Excellency Mr. Armando Gonzalo Alvarez, Ambassador Design Embassy of Federative Brazil, Your Excellency Mr. George Monteiro Prata, Ambassador of the Republic of Guatemala to the Republic of Indonesia, Your Excellency Mr. Jacobo Cuyun, Ambassador of Peru to the Republic of Indonesia, Your Excellency Luis Suboyama, Ambassador of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, the Republic of Indonesia, Your Excellency Mr. Radames Jesus Gomez Azuaze, Ambassador of the Republic of Cuba to the Republic of Indonesia, Your Excellency Madam Tania, expert on defense of Special Advisor on Maritime Archive for National of the Republic of Indonesia, Madam Koni, ready. Oh, okay. Representative from Directorate for America, 1, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Sir Vicky Octani, Charge Affair and representative from the Embassy of Argentina, Chile, the Kingdom of Spain, and the Republic of Ecuador. My colleagues from Ministry of the State Secretariat, from National Library, from Provincial Government of Jakarta, and from National Archive of Indonesia, Tumis, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. It's a pleasure for the National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia to collaborate with the Embassy of Mexico in Jakarta in conducting this exhibition and seminar in conjunction with the 70-year commemoration of the diplomatic relation between Indonesia and Mexico. It is also an honor for us also have ambassadors, representatives of the embassies from the Ibero-America countries in this special occasion. We are now facing the cultural pollution, like my President mentioned in the Parliament meeting last week ago, in this global world, which make our nation lose their identity. Therefore, the struggle against the cultural pollution will be conducted by reviving the memory about our past, that stories about the cultural values which are passed from generation to generation. Like a story, memory is recorded in the archives in the limited capacity of perception, narrative, and the life story of people and their culture. National Archive, as the house of memory, has preserved. Welcome, Madam. National Archive, as the house of memory, has preserved the historical and cultural documentary heritage for the interest present and third generation. Our goals is also to create universal access to public on this documentary heritage. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, international collaboration and cooperation are also an essential part in the archive. This event shall increase the role of archive as an instrument of soft diplomacy and a part of cultural cooperation between national, especially for Indonesia and Mexico. The document and photograph about the establishment of diplomatic relation, presidential visit, situation during 70s until 90s, and the most recent activities are the evidence on the development of partnership between Indonesia and Mexico. This event is also special for us because we will have a seminar with the expert on the international relation to discuss deeper on the relation cooperation between Indonesia and Mexico from time to time. In the end, on behalf of the government of Indonesia, I would like to deliver my highest appreciation to all parties that involved, especially from the Embassy of Mexico. I greatly hope that today's events shall strengthen our cultural cooperation, particularly on the field of archive and documentary heritage between our countries. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Imam Gunarto. To Mr. Imam, I'll ask you to take place as our next session will be.
Our event continues with the agenda of giving official gifts from UNRI to Embassy of Mexico to Indonesia.
Mr. Armando, please go on. To Mr. Armando and to Mr. Imam, please stay on stage again. As we will also be taking our honorable guest. To our honorable guests, please come on stage as we will take pictures together. To our VIP guests, please come forward. And next, Mr. Imam Gunarto, again, sir, and Mr. Armando will officially and symbolically open the archival exhibitions, and we will also invite again our honorable guests, delegates and ambassadors to open and see the archival exhibition. To Mr. Imam Gunarto and Mr. Armando. Please give a big round of applause to our official opening of archival exhibition.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to inform that there will be held an international seminar which will be moderated by Miss Octavia Syafarwati. For the guests who wants to participate in the seminar are welcome.
After this, there will be a special performance for you called Gambang Kromong from West Jakarta Cultural Department. And the singer is a multi-talented artist, so please give a warm welcome to Miss Gina Sheila.
Okay, thank you. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so very, very happy because in this time, I can entertain you all.
Give like concept ticket of life. As we embark on this visual journey, guided by the remarkable document, photographs, and words, we are reminded of the values, aspirations that have forged an bond between and this exhibition as a statement on the initiative that flourished and evolved over shaping diplomatic, cultural, and economic. First panel, there are 6 set of panels, exhibitions, and we are currently very first one, the welcome panel. To introduce to you to the general overview of the countries diametrically to each. Indonesia and Mexico had the first indirect
Test.
Manila, Galleon,
Check.
first one. And 16 and for the first time and facilitated exchange product ideas. On April, Indonesia and Mexico established their diplomatic relations and past 70. Both countries have to become and values in many. Indonesia and Mexico. Second panel.
Okay, thank you, good day, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome on the second panel of the exhibition, where we will show you the early processes of the establishment
Indonesia.
of diplomatic relations
Promo.
between Indonesia
And
and
enjoy
Mexico.
your voting.
In the early 1950s, commercial communications began to take place between the Embassy of Indonesia and the Embassy of Mexico in Washington, D.C. This was to discuss about the possibility of exchanges of diplomatic relations on ambassadorial level.
We will present
On this panel, we can see several documents, starting from a letter written by the ambassador of Mexico in Washington, D.C. in 1952, with a copy of note the ambassador of Indonesia in Washington, D.C. regarding the interest of exchanging of diplomatic ties on ambassador level. There are also articles discussing the declaration of diplomatic relations and of ambassador. After several discussions between the Embassy of Indonesia in Washington, D.C. and the Embassy of Mexico in Washington, D.C., a text of declarations to announce the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries was created. And it was decided that on 6th of April of 1953, the diplomatic relations was to be announced. Aside from the declaration, the first ambassadors were also appointed. Dr. Mukarto, the Indonesian ambassador to Washington, D.C. at that time, simultaneously became the Indonesian ambassador to Mexico. Meanwhile, ambassador of Mexico to Japan, Manuel Arce, became the concurrent ambassador of Mexico to Indonesia. As we can see from the last panel, panel number 5, in April 1954, the Oficina de Información de República de Indonesia, Information Office of the Republic of Indonesia, announced the opening of their office in Mexico City. And later on, in 1961, the first Mexican ambassador began to reside in Jakarta. And by then, formalizing the presence of permanent representation of Mexico in Indonesia. Moving forward, to look on the pivotal moments of the development of Indonesia and Mexico relations.
Thank you. First of all, Indonesia and Mexico's close relationship is symbolized with of a high-level interaction. These high-level interactions have been since President Sukarno's Mexico City in 19. Back then, President Sukarno was greeted by President Lopez Mateos in Mexico City, and his visit is a monumental Mexico relationship as it grows until these other pictures. In another interaction from President Lopez Mateos when he Indonesia visiting Jakarta, Bali, Bogor. During his visit to Bali, for example, Sukarno gave him a special commendation. And Sukarno understands of cultural and soft diplomacy. And that's why until today, have a Mexican in Menteng in Indonesia, where it symbolized a cultural ties between Indonesia and Mexico. Are all the photos combined from Mexico and Indonesia, in which we documented the high-level interactions, both in the level of presidents and in the level of ministry of foreign affairs. Now let's proceed to the next panel with you. Now, the next monumental events in our bilateral partnership is nurturing our commitment to shared values. We're excited. Our values. Until now, next panel. Our government proud next follow what's president next protect last panel. Every shared economic, cultural values, natural events. And these documents that we have here in the National Archive that in Indonesia, Mexico. And I thank all the audience for and proceed to our next engagement here in the next room.
Okay, good day, ladies and gentlemen. This time I'm so very happy because I can entertain all the cheerful atmosphere. Welcome guests from Mexico and the other countries. I want to introduce myself. My name is Nasional and the traditional music from West Jakarta, culture, Indonesia. We will present to the best and beautiful song for all of you. Thanks. Enjoy your watching. Quito mi corazón, grito de mi sangre. Pinto eres mi vida, damarte tu cálido, por cada radio, mi corazón, pinto de mis amores, cántame con amor. Best song from Indonesia. Berpikir cicilan, pikir tagihan, kopi-kopi mati. Berpikir cicilan, kopi-kopi mati. Bertoke isti kaya, dinero pinjau, kopi mati. Sirama berpikiran dua, kopi pase. Pikir cicilan kopi pase. Oke. Mana dong tepuk tangannya untuk kita semua pada siang hari ini. Thank you. Kita asuhan dari Suku Dinas Budaya Pariwisata Jakarta Barat ingin mempersembahkan lagu-lagu terbaik dari kami, dan inilah Gambang Kromo yang setia menemani Anda hingga untuk menemani siang kita semuanya. so much for your watching. Thank you.
Cek, cek.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to inform there will be held an international seminar which will be moderated by Miss Octavia Syafarwati. For the guests who wants to participate in the seminar, welcome. For Miss Octavia, you
His Excellency, Acting Head of the National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia. His Excellency, Ambassador of Mexico to Indonesia, Mr. Armando G. The honorable speakers, experts on military, security, and defense, Time Archives, Sis Koni Rahakundi, American Director Fund, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, represented by Mr. Vicky Octanio, the respectable the Ambassador of Brazil, the respectable the Ambassador of Cuba, the respectable Ambassador of Guatemala, the respectable of the Ambassador of Peru, the respectable the Ambassador of Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, representative of the Embassy of Argentina, Chile, Ecuador, and Spain in Indonesia, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I would like to show you the way I speak Spanish. I hope I don't mispronounce. Buenos días. ¿Cómo está usted? Okay, I would like to invite all of the speakers to be seated. My name is Octavia. I currently work as an archivist the National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia. It gives me such a great honor to be the moderator of this webinar. As you can see, the theme of our webinar for today is the panorama of 70 years of friendship and cooperation between Indonesia and Mexico. When we are talking about Mexico, Mexico is one of the oldest friends of Indonesia in Latin America. Indonesia and Mexico bilateral relation began on April 6, 1953. It was marked by the joint declaration on opening diplomatic relations in Washington, D.C. In June 1954, an official representative of Indonesia was established in Mexico named Oficina de Información de la República de Indonesia. On July 1st, 1956, thereafter, officially transformed into Indonesian embassy. Additionally, the bilateral relations between Mexico and Indonesia are reflected in multilateral regional cooperation. For instance, United Nations, G20, MICTA, and PELAC. Geographically speaking, both Indonesia and Mexico are part of Pacific Atlantic Belt. I have quoted from first from Mr. Armando G. Alvarez. You have said that Mexico, I repeat, Mexico and Indonesia are more united than ever, working to find solutions to those problems through diplomacy and international cooperation. And then, as I quote from Nimade Ayu Martini, Director of Bilateral Negotiation of the Indonesian Trade Ministry, both Indonesia and Mexico are two emerging economies that have several things in common. The 70 years of friendship and bilateral ties has been through ups and downs. Today, we will discuss the challenges and opportunities in forging the ties. Today's webinar, we have three remarkable speakers. They are Mr. Armando G. Alvarez. Buenos días. Ibu Koni Rahakundini Bakri. Morning, Ibu. And then the last but not least, Mr. Vicky Octanio. Lagi good. Okay, before the presentation begins, I would like to inform you how this will run. Each speaker will have 30 minutes to present the presentation. And then the discussion will follow after all of the presentation is complete. I would like to ask the participants of this room on YouTube to contribute to our discussion by sharing your questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we will start with our first speaker. Before I start, please allow me to read the curriculum vitae. His name is Vicky Octanio, current position as coordinator of Mexico and Central America, of Directorate America of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and his experiences: Third Secretary of Indonesian Embassy in Santiago, Chile, Consul of Indonesian Consulate General in Los Angeles, USA, and the Minister Counselor of Indonesian Embassy in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Mr. Vicky Octanio, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the moderator, Ambassador, Bukoni, Excellencies, and also colleague from the embassies from Ibero-America. Good morning, buenos dias, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to convey the apology of our director, Director Iwan, that cannot be here due to the foreseen activities that has come very lately, and it's a great honor for me personally and for Foreign Affairs to be here as a speaker. At first, I thought I was the last speaker. Gitu. I was preparing my mentality to be the last speaker, but I think now it's quite challenging. And you mentioned 30 minutes, because 30 minutes of speaking is quite long. But I would just want to give a panorama of what we have done, and also what are the challenges and potential Indonesia and Mexico will have in the future. But before I begin, I see many of the students, and I want to ask who or from the audience who believe in long distance. There are many skeptics about long distance relation. It doesn't work, and but I think Indonesia and Mexico is a proof that long distance relation can work. The distance between Indonesia and Mexico is, I think, 20 or 30 hours, yeah, Excellency, to go there. And it's very different. And the first question will be, can the long distance make a good partner? Because neighboring countries, we have many problems, we have many, now with a very different different culture, different language. Can it work? Indonesia and Mexico and other countries, I believe, distance doesn't matter. And we still can have a long relation. Now it's the 70th relation. I cannot imagine when the president of Mexico visited here in 1961, how he traveled here at that time without with the connectivity not as good as now. But that's how important Mexico for Indonesia and vice versa. And the strategic location between Indonesia and Mexico is also play a good role. Indonesia is located very strategically between Asia and Oceania, between two oceans, and Mexico also play a similar role, also a similar position. They can be the hub to the Northern America and Southern America. And also during that 70 years, I would like first to see the people-to-people contact, or the soft diplomacy. Mexico is very known in Indonesia. Maybe I was younger, and the Ibu knows, with Thalia, Maria Mercedes. It's an opening for many of us to Mexico, and maybe many of us, if we will be asked whether we like Thalia or no. Well, not now. There is no my wife is not here, so I can say she's a pretty woman. So many things. The soft diplomacy also play a huge role trying to know one another. Music, the mariachi. If everyone know tacos, know nachos, to engage or to strengthen the relation between other two culture, and to know Indonesia, to know Mexico more. So that we do hope that rendang and anything of Indonesia will be known more in Mexico, as we know tacos and so on. So that is also play a huge role. I remember a quotation or a wording in Spanish, ojo que no ve, corazón que no siente. Literally in Indonesia is tak kenal maka tak sayang. Or eyes doesn't see, the heart doesn't feel. So you need to be to Mexico or to vice versa to, let's say, open the heart so that the relation open. Might be political, economy, social culture, but the first thing is we have to know one another. We have to try to touch heart of one, so we can. So this is just a starting how Mexico is known now, Pak Dubes. We can also mention Chicharito of Mexican football and many things. But that is the soft diplomacy is very important so that we know one another. During the 70 years of bilateral relation, as mentioned in the remarks of the ambassador, we have played anything. And Mexico is the 5th largest trade partner in America region. And even during the pandemic, we are able to increase our trade between Indonesia and Mexico. So this is a proof that we have a solid and strengthened relation. And then we also have a deep commercial ties, as I mentioned, exploring. So that's we have to explore more opportunities, and also we have to diversify the products of the relation. Have much more broadened. That's why, in an economic sense, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs since 2019 have developed the so-called INALAC Business Forum, or Indonesian, Latin American, and the Caribbean Business, in which this year we will hold it on the 16th and 17th of October. And we see that through INALAC Business Forum, that is an instrument for us to strengthen the relation with all the Latin American and the Caribbean Business Forum. In especially with Mexico, every year there is an MOU signed, and the actor of this success is Ambassador Mando. So this year there will be 3 or 4 MOU that will be signed, and I will not announce it now because it's not my capacity. I want to make it like much more dramatic, Hollywood style. You have to wait for the formal announcement. But this also see, and in other Ibero-American country, we have many MOU. Hopefully, many more MOUs to come. Chile, Ecuador, and so on. So we are trying to see Latin America as a non-traditional partner, a very potential partner that we have to develop. And also in social culture, in education, there have been exchange of students. We have the so-called Beasiswa Seni Budaya Indonesia, a scholarship for foreigners to know about Indonesian culture and to study about not only languages but also culture performance like music, dances, and so on. So the people-to-people relation is also very strong, and we share also with Mexico in political terms, not only in bilateral but also in multilateral. We share the MICTA, Mexico, Indonesia, South Korea, Turkey now and Australia. We are currently hold the presidency of MICTA, in which we address 3 priorities: strengthening the multilateralism, inclusive recovery, and digital transformation. Besides MICTA, we have the FEALAC, the Forum of East Asia and Latin American Cooperation. Jokingly speaking, FEALAC, I always say it's a jet lag forum because there will be half a participant sleeping because of the jet lag. Whether if we hold it in Asia, the South American will be having the jet lag and vice versa. But you can see, even with that jet lag, even with that challenges of the partners of us, we still can each other. And obviously G20, in which Indonesia and Mexico share a participant. And last year, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, now the former minister, I don't know whether he will be the next president, came to Indonesia to visit. And maybe hold the bilateral consultation in which the Director General of Asia Pacific of Mexico is coming. So basically this week I will be like the staff of going to meet many times with the Mexican embassy. So this is in the political field. And in regards the 7th anniversary, our embassy in Mexico City has held the Expo Indonesia. As the ambassador mentioned, it was done in the World Trade Center, and then have attracted 5,000 visitors with a potential trade of 20 million US dollar. So this is also an event trying to strengthen the relation. Additionally, there is also the logo making competition for the 70th years of Indonesia and Mexico for the diplomatic relation. The Indonesian embassy brought together many creative minds, and actually the Directorate of America One was one of the judges, and we see the difficulties of trying to see the best. So this is what we have done. Now the question is, where are we going? What are we going to do? Is it enough or not? Well, if it's enough, maybe the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will close the desk of Mexico. But there are much more things that we can do. Very famous analyst, and I'm just a normal guy. So we still have to do more. There is still what we see, the numbers doesn't reflect the real potential. We still have to work harder, and I think this is a good basis. What we have done is a good capital for us to develop more, to strengthen the relation. So I think that is, we will do more, Pak Dubes, in this regard. We will work harder, obviously, from the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Please be assured that we will do our best in order to strengthen this relation that we have. Before I close, there's also a Spanish verb, en la unión está la fuerza. In the union, there is strength. We cannot work separately, we have to work together so that we strengthen our relation between Indonesia and Mexico. I hope this will be enough because 30 minutes is quite difficult. So thank you very much for your attention. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Mr. Vicky Antonio. I would like to pinpoint from his presentation. So there are two kinds of the ties between Indonesia and Mexico. The first is people to people, and then the second one is from G to G, like people to people. For instance, like telenovela. I also watched telenovela called La Usurpadora, and I know Gabriela Hispanic. And then I think before Korean drama come and conquer Indonesian entertainment, I think we had telenovela before that. And then we have from the social culture, for instance, like student exchange and scholarship between Indonesia and Mexico. And then from G to G, there are two fields, politics and economics. Okay, thank you, Mr. Vicky Octanio. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give big applause to Mr. Vicky Octanio. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, now we are moving to our second speaker. But before I start, I would like to read the curriculum vitae of our second speaker. The name is Mr. Armando G. Alvarez. He was born in the state of Tamaulipas on November 20th, 1958. But you still look young, actually. And then married to Gladys Tenorio with two children named Rodrigo and Diego. He also speaks English and French. I don't speak French, unfortunately. And then I would like to read his educational background. He accomplished his bachelor program majoring in international relations in National Autonomous University of Mexico, master in international relations with a specialization in specific studies from Deakin University in Melbourne, Australia, and he accomplished his master's degree in Higher Command and National Security by the Center for Naval and Superior Studies of the Mexican Navy. You took course in the Navy, but you are not a Navy. And I would like to read the diplomatic career for 36 years, right? So the first is entry as a career member of the Mexican Foreign Service in 1988, head of Department of Central America at the Secretariat of External Relations, or SRE, in 1987 until 1988, head of Cooperation, Mexican Embassy in Guatemala in 1989 until 1993, Deputy Consul in Sydney, Australia in 1993 until 1996, Deputy Chief of Mission at the Mexican Embassy in South Korea in 1996 until 2000, Delegate of the SRE in the state of Campeche in 2000 until 2002, commissioned in the Secretariat of the Navy in 2002 until 2003, Director for the Organization of American States at the SRE in 2003 until 2004, Deputy Chief of Mission at the Mexican Embassy in Costa Rica in 2004 until 2007, Director for General Asia Pacific at the SRE 2007 until 2012, Ambassador of Mexico to Costa Rica in 2012 until 2013, the Ambassador of Mexico to Australia in 2014 until 2017, last but not least, the Ambassador of Mexico to Indonesia and Asian concurrent to Timor-Leste in 2018 until nowadays. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Armando J. Alvarez. The time is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Terima kasih banyak for the kind presentation. Also, my best greetings to my panelists, colleagues here, and to all the audience that kindly attended this morning. We prepared a visual presentation for you regarding the 70 years of friendship and cooperation between Mexico and Indonesia. And can you please put the first slide of the presentation? Okay, that's the first slide. Okay. Although diplomatic relations between the two nations are only 70 years old, we must not forget that the first contacts between the people of Mexico and the people of Indonesia date back several centuries. Next, please. So this is the first contacts. The first contacts between the two countries date back to the 16th to the 19th centuries, when the then Viceroyalty of the New Spain, which is now Mexico, and the Dutch East Indies, which is now Indonesia, had their first interaction through a trade route known as the Manila Galleon, or Acapulco-Manila Galleon. You have to remember that at that time, both the Philippines and Mexico were part of the Spanish Empire. So this naval route, this trade route between the port of Acapulco and the port of Manila was practically an internal route within the Spanish Empire, but it used to put together not only two countries, but two continents, the American continent and the Asian continent. And this route lasted for 250 years, since the year of 1665 when it was inaugurated, to the year of 1815, when it ceased to exist. Those contacts allowed not only the exchange of goods, but also of people, ideas, and culture. Still, a few historical Spanish forts remain in some places in the Maluku Islands, such as Tidore and Ternate. And also, some people still speak a dialect of Spanish called Chabacano. Not many, but still some people speak Chabacano, which is a language from Spanish used in Tidore and Ternate and in Zamboanga in the Philippines. Through the Manila Galleon came to Mexico spices and essences of the Indonesian archipelago. At that time, the Spices Islands were known as the Spices Islands, like nutmeg, cloves, cinnamon, pepper, and many other products from Indonesia came to Mexico, and they are today widely used in Mexican cuisine. Conversely, from Mexico came to Indonesia products like tomatoes, avocados, papaya, cocoa, and various chilies, which are used today in the Indonesian food and desserts and even drinks. You have a nice avocado drink here in smoothie in Indonesia. The Manila Galleon ceased to exist in 1815 with the independence of Mexico, but the independence of Indonesia would still have to wait until the first half of the 20th century to materialize in 1945 when the independence was declared in Indonesia. Now, next, please. Thus, the diplomatic relations between Mexico and Indonesia date back to the very creation of the Indonesian state, making it the oldest diplomatic relation established by Mexico in Southeast Asia. Even before than the Philippines, we established diplomatic relations with Indonesia. As it was already mentioned, on the 6th of April in 1953, Mexico officially established diplomatic relations with Indonesia with the signing of a joint declaration in Washington, D.C., the one that you can see in the picture exhibition. And Mexico appointed the then ambassador of Japan to Jakarta, and later on, the first Mexican ambassador president here in Jakarta. In 1958, the year when I was born, precisely, those two gentlemen got together for the first time, President Ahmed Sukarno and President Adolfo López Mateos. President Sukarno visited Mexico at that time, and later on, President Adolfo López Mateos came to Indonesia. As Pafiki mentioned, you have to take into consideration that at that time, it was not usual for a head of state to cross the Pacific Ocean to hold relations with other. There were no facilities for crossing such a big ocean as the Pacific Ocean. Even the air navigation was not what it is today. And despite that fact, both presidents accomplished trips to the other country, and President Sukarno came to Mexico, and President López Mateos came to Indonesia and established diplomatic relations. Later on, as Pafiki mentioned also, a school, Republic of Mexico, was opened up here in Jakarta, and a school, Republic of Indonesia, was opened in Mexico City. And to celebrate the 70th anniversary of diplomatic relations, a series of events have been conducted along the year, both in Mexico City and Jakarta. As I already mentioned, just in this month of August, Indonesia held a very, very important trade, cultural, and educational fair in Mexico City, and well, the Embassy of Mexico, along with the Historical Archive of Indonesia, are holding this exhibition and this seminar. Next, please. Well, what brings Mexico and Indonesia together? Despite the huge distance, as Pafiki said, we have a very, very big distance. We have 13 hours difference between Mexico City and Jakarta, which means that we are exactly in the opposite side of the world. If you dig a hole here, you get to Mexico, straight to Mexico. So we are in the opposite side of the world. it's amazing how many similarities we have between two peoples with such a big distance. In the screen, you can see the magnificent temple of Borobudur in central Java, and the pre-Columbian city of Teotihuacan near Mexico City. You can see that even there are some similar architectural patterns between different civilizations that did not know each other. They didn't know each other, and despite that, there's a large series of similarities. And also, both sides, Borobudur and Teotihuacan, were built practically in the same century. When the former Indonesian people were building Borobudur, the former Mexican people were building Teotihuacan in Mexico. And those are only two of the many sites that both countries have in the UNESCO's World Heritage List. You have many more, Sangiran and Prambanan and many others, and we also have 36 sites in the UNESCO World Heritage List. We not only are heirs of great civilizations, we both endured European colonialism. We both fought for our independence. We achieved independence, and we were able to build modern societies and economies. You can see in the screen now also, well, the similar patterns of Jakarta and Mexico City, two very big metropolises, two of the biggest metropolises in the world, very, very vibrant cities and capital of the two countries. Next, please. Another feature that Mexico and Indonesia share, by the way, also with Brazil, Ambassador of Brazil is present here, and other Latin American countries like Venezuela, like Colombia, like Peru, is the fact that Mexico and Indonesia are two of the 17 mega diverse countries in the world. What does it mean? It means that those countries are home to unique species of plants and animals, and that we work together for natural conservation, environment action, and to fight against climate change. It means that being two of the 17 mega diverse countries give us a great responsibility for the future of life in this planet, along, as I said, with other countries like China, like India, like Australia, Brazil, Peru, etc. Okay, next, please. We also have, next slide, please. Okay, we also have very dynamic societies. Not only are rich in culture and history, we are also rich in nature we are also rich in population. Our countries are very young as an average. The average age in Indonesia is 29.9 years old, and in Mexico 29.8, practically the same median age in the two countries. What does it mean? It means that we both have a very important demographic bonus for working, for production, and for development. Also, both countries are very much devoted to education. We believe in education, and we are some of the countries that are graduating more engineers in the world. Indonesia is the 6th country in the world by the number of engineers that are graduating every year. Mexico is the 8th country in the world. So we bet very much in education. In the screen, you can see the campuses of the National Autonomous the University of Mexico and the Universitas Indonesia down there. Next, please. Well, we are also an extensive and diverse nation. We have practically the same territorial extension, around nearly 2 million square kilometers. Both countries have the same size, 2 million square kilometers. Mexico basically in one piece, Indonesia in 17,000 islands, both concentrated with the population concentrated in this island of Java. We have vast natural and human resources. Another very important thing is we both are multicultural, multi-ethnic, and multilingual countries. In Mexico, there are 64 indigenous languages that are spoken in different regions apart from Spanish. In Indonesia, you have hundreds of different regional languages in all the islands of Indonesia. And of course, we both have a national language, which is Spanish in the case of Mexico, and Bahasa Indonesia in the case. But we respect. We all speak the national language, but we respect the speakers of the local or regional or indigenous languages in both countries, and both governments also struggle for maintaining and keeping alive those languages. We're rich in traditions and history. You can see from some of the beautiful costumes in Mexico and Indonesia in the screen. We both are creative economy superpowers. In the last decades, we have been investing a lot in creative economy, and we are cooperating in the creative economy. And because of this richness of landscape, of culture, multi-ethnicity, etc., is that both countries have buoyant tourist industries. Many people travel to Mexico and to Indonesia for tourism every year. And in Mexico, the main tourist destination is the Mayan Riviera in southeast, in the peninsula of Yucatan. Here is the island of Bali. Next, please. Well, we both are consolidated democracies. In the last decades, specifically, we have been struggling to consolidate democracies. No democracy is perfect. There is no perfect democracy anywhere in the world, but both Mexico and Indonesia are struggling for having representative democracies that work in favor of all the people, regardless their gender, their age, their religion, or their ethnicity. We both are countries with a very religious population, but secular state. That means that the state supports and respects every religion, not only the religion of the majority of the people, but every religion. We both are countries respectful of human rights and the rule of law, and as a coincidence, we both will have presidential elections next year in 2024. Next, please. Well, also another similarity that brings us together is that we have a principled democracy. Both Mexico and Indonesia base their foreign policy in principles. In the case of Mexico, those principles are stated in the Mexican Constitution. They are numbered specifically within the Constitution, which is the non-intervention in the foreign states of other countries, the struggling for peace and security, the international cooperation, etc. A series of principles from the UN Charter, and both countries are respectful of international law. That means that we both are good international citizens, and therefore we are partners in the main multilateral organizations and mechanisms. It is amazing how similar are the patterns of votation of Mexico and Indonesia in all the UN system. Not only in the UN, but also in all the UN system, we have over 80% of coincidence in the pattern of voting. What does it mean? It means simply that we see the world in a similar manner, and we propose similar solutions to the world problems. That is why we have that high coincidence of votes at the UN. Together of a lot of organizations, not only the UN, we are part of the G20. We are two of the G20 members. We are part of APEC, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, along with Indonesia. We are part of the WTO, of course, and we are part of MIGTA. MIGTA, it's a newly created, 10 years old group of countries that include Mexico, Indonesia, South Korea, Turkey, and Australia. That is what is called MIGTA. And this year, Indonesia is presiding the group of MIGTA. Next, please. We also are regional leaders. Mexico belongs to Latin America, to a group called Alianza del Pacífico, which includes Mexico, Peru, Colombia, and Chile. And next, Ecuador and Costa Rica are applying to become members of the Pacific Alliance. Mexico is the largest country in territory and economy in the Pacific Alliance, as Indonesia is the largest country in ASEAN in territory, population, and in GDP. Next, please. Okay, we are two of the top is the world economies. Mexico, according to the World Bank, last year, 2022, was the 14th largest economy, and Indonesia was the 16th largest economy. That is in nominal GDP. But if we measure the economies in PPP, which is power purchasing parity, how much your money can buy in Mexico and in Indonesia, then it is the opposite. Indonesia goes to the 7th place, and Mexico to the 11th place. So it's about how you consider the economic size of the two countries. But anyway, we are two of the largest economies in the world. Next, please. Well, we have a very important cooperation. Our trade and investment is increasing in the period 1993 to 2022. The trade growth 727%. Both countries propose an open and fair international trading system, and regular trade missions, cooperation between business associations, and participation in trade exhibitions are conducted. In the last 2 months, 2 Mexican delegations have come to, trade delegations have come to Indonesia. This month, Indonesia operated a very important trade fair in Mexico City, and a Mexican-Indonesian bilateral business committee was created between COMSE in Mexico and CADIN in Indonesia, which are the trade organizations of the two countries. Next, please. Well, last year, our bilateral trade reached $2.8 billion with a very important trade surplus for Indonesia. You can see there the main exports from Mexico to Indonesia and the main export from Indonesia to Mexico. Next, please. Okay, also reciprocal investment in children entertainment, in movie theaters, and PVC solution, a recent investment with Mexico in Central Java a few months ago near Semarang in PVC production. Indonesia has a very important company producing polymers in the state of Querétaro in central Mexico, and there are very positive perspectives for more investment in the years to come. Next, please. Okay, we have found that there are some areas of commercial opportunity between the two countries, including agro-industry, processed food and beverages, pharmaceuticals and medical devices, automotive industry, auto parts. Both countries are very important producers of auto parts, and creative industries and tourism. All those are sectors of opportunity for the bilateral relations. Next, please. Okay, we are two very open economies. In the case of Mexico, we have 12 free trade agreements with a total of 46 countries. Why? Because one of them is with the European Union. All 27 countries of the European Union in one trade agreement with Mexico. Some others with Latin America, of course, with the US and Canada. And we are part also in Asia Pacific of the Trans-Pacific Partnership or TPP, of which some countries in Southeast Asia are members, like Vietnam, like Brunei, like Singapore, and like Malaysia. Indonesia is not member yet of this. But however, Indonesia is member of and founding member of the RCEP with all 10 ASEAN countries and other countries in the region like China, like Japan, like South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, etc. That it's supposed to be in a few years the largest trading bloc in the world. Next, please. Okay, we both have Trans-Pacific vocation. We, as I already mentioned, Mexico is part of the Pacific Alliance along with Chile. The colleague from Chile is here. Also, the ambassador of Peru was here. And the Pacific Alliance has two main aims. The first one is integrating among themselves, and the one is working together with the other end of the Pacific Ocean. That is what is called the Pacific Alliance, because they are focusing and they are watching to the other end of the Pacific, and that is why we are all part of APEC, not only of the Pacific Alliance, but all part of APEC, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. Chile, by the way, is a country that has advanced very much in its economic relations with Indonesia, having a free trade agreement in full operation for a long time. Okay, next, please. Well, technical cooperation, for several decades, we have established programs of technical cooperation in many fields, like agriculture, education, culture, etc. And we have a series of MOUs in process of being adopted in disaster risk management, regulatory reform, fisheries, health, creative industries, halal certification, and sports. Maybe in the short term, in the next 2 months, some of those MOUs will be signed with the help of Pafiki, which is present here. He's pushing very hard to sign some of those MOUs under negotiation. Next, please. And well, we both have a promising future, according to some forecasts like PwC. By the year 2030, Indonesia will be the 5th largest economy in the world, and Mexico the 9th largest economy. Brazil, by the way, will be the number 8. Actually, already is. It's a big economy, a big country, and that poses important possibilities for trade and investment between Mexico and Indonesia, and between Indonesia and Latin America in general. Next, please. Well, as a conclusion, I can say that Mexico is a reliable partner for Indonesia, has a very stable economy and politics, has a strategic location between North America, South America, Asia, and Europe. It's in the middle of the 4 most important trading blocks: North America, North, South America to the south, Asia to the west, and Europe to the east. We are an attractive investment destination. Last year, we received $35 billion in investment. We are the largest exporter in Latin America. We are a business-oriented economy with skilled workforce, with very competitive labor cost. Today, many companies are relocating from different countries, are relocating in Mexico for this competitive labor costs, and for this network of free trade agreements. We received 38 million tourists in last year, in 2022, and we kept receiving tourists even during the worst time of the pandemics, and we will be some of the largest economies by 2030. Next one. And well, with this, I conclude my presentation, and I appreciate very much your kind patience and your kind attendance. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Mr. Ambassador. From your presentation, I'd like to pinpoint some of your presentation. When we are talking about 70 years of our ties, well, actually, it happened longer than before, right? Starting from 16th century. Maybe before the Dutch came, yeah, we had the interaction before Mexico, with Mexican. And then you have mentioned various differences, and you also mentioned we have also various things in common, for instance, like demographic, cultural, socio-cultural democracy, and etc. And then we are talking about the ties. Maybe we can discuss later about the SWOT analysis from the strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats to forging our ties. And then maybe we can discuss later about, because I have read the information about OGP, Mr. Ambassador, about open government partnership. Indonesia and Mexico are 2 of the founder of this organization. Maybe we can discuss it later. And then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your insightful presentation. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we are moving to our last but not least presentation. we are going to see the curriculum vitae of Mrs. Koni Rahakundini Bakri, and I would like to ask the committee to show the video of her profile.
Dr. Koni Rahakundini Bakri, analisis pertahanan militer dan intelijen, pendidikan, studi S3 di Universitas Indonesia, Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies Hawaii, Fusikang War Academy Republic of China, Chevening Executive Program for Democracy and Security di Birmingham University, United Kingdom, Senior Research Fellow di The Institute of National Security Studies di Tel Aviv, Israel, Udara, Sekolah Staf dan Komando Angkatan Laut, dan Sisko TNI, serta dosen pada Sekolah Diplomat Kementerian Luar Negeri Republik Indonesia. Aktivitas Board of Trustee di Indonesia Institute for Maritime Studies, Dewan Pembina di National Airspace and Power Center of Indonesia, Perwakilan Indonesia di Silin of Communication International Group, dan Dewan Pengawas Industri Pertahanan Swasta Nasional sampai dengan tahun 2019. Konferensi internasional yang pernah beliau ikuti, International Defense University di Washington DC, Global Security Meeting di Bratislava, Slovakia, The Delhi Dialogue Meetings, International Slugs Meeting, dan mewakili akademisi Indonesia di The Valdai Club Rusia. Beliau menjadi salah satu dari 22 orang future leaders yang terpilih oleh Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Boston, USA. Buku yang telah beliau buat, Defending Indonesia, Pertahanan Negara dan Postur TNI Ideal, dan autobiografi Aku Adalah Peluru.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ibu Koni Rahakundini. The time is yours.
Thank you so much, Excellency. Good morning. Thank you, Ambassador Argentina is still here, and I think Ambassador Brazil somewhere. And thank you, Ambassador Mexico, for your presentation. Actually, I don't know what to say anymore because most of my presentation is taken. But okay, let me start with my first slide, please. So, because my background is from security, then I will talk something about Mexico. Next, please. So the Estados Unidos de Mexicanos, or Mexico, is actually the name of the countries taken from the ancient Aztec, namely the Mexico Tenochtitlan. I don't know how to read that because I'm not speak Spanish, but Mexico is partly the name of God, of the God of war. And this is the name that Co means the place and Ka means. And for nearly 3,000 years, that Mexico is home to the several advanced civilizations, Amerindian, Mayan, and Aztec. Next, please. So I think you mentioned about the Galeano and you mentioned about the colonial as well, but I think the 15th century is actually Mexico come to our region and started with this ship. And the Spanish Galeano was based in Manila, so it was called the Manila Galeano. And the new Manila Spain route began in 1565 after the ocean trade route was discovered by Andres de Urdaneta. Next, please. So there's several things happen, but I think that interests me so much is regarding the escort ship. So it's like the Dutch, actually the trade between Mexico and Manila at that time is actually escorted by security ships as well. So this is very interesting. A total of 110 Manila galeones travel between Manila and Acapulco during 250 years, meaning that, it's very, I think around twice or third times every year. And because it's very success, the Zephyr sent a petition to the King of Philip II of Spain complaining about this problem. And in 1593, the Spain elected a law of limiting only 2 ships per year to defeat this from each port. So 2 ships were prepared as reserve vessels, one in Manila, one in Acapulco. So in the 16th century, the Galeano weighed between 7,000 to 2,000 tons. It's quite big. I mean, if you compare with ship today, it's small, but you can imagine how they are very good sailors. And the ship conception, which sank in 1638, was 43 to 49 meter long, and the other one is near Santissima, Trinidad, is about 51 meters. Next. So this is the distance between us that the foreign affairs just mentioned this morning. Is very far away. Next slide, please. So Mexican is among the Latin Americans involved with the Filipino soldiers Andres Palace in. And from the Mexican side, Filipinos like Ramon Fapie supported Miguel Hidalgo in the Mexican War of Independence. In 1842, Mexico stationed an independent representative in Manila. So for me, it's very interesting that the diplomatic relation between Philippines and Mexico is the same with Indonesia relation with only 70 years. Because when you see from the history, you are starting from the 1842, the representative in Manila. The very interesting things that we have to thank to Mexico is during the World War II, actually Mexico participated in the Pacific campaign against Japan and sent the 201 Squadron, which is a contingent of the Mexican Expeditionary Air Force, and arrived in Manila on 30 April of 1945, then commanded by Colonel Antonio Cardenas Rodriguez, which is participate in Battle of Luzon. So Mexico displayed an envoy to participate as well in the festivities to celebrate the birth of the Southeast. The year of 1964 is the year of the Philippine-Mexico friendship, and this year both nations are going to celebrate. So it's like Ambassador said, next slide please. We have a very close relation, and this is Mexico-Indonesia first contact. By the way, Ambassador, I have the blood of Tidore. So maybe I speak a bit of your language somehow. Quarter of my blood is Tidore. Yeah. So thank you for saying that. Next slide. Okay. Okay. So next, the diplomatic relation is in August 1945. Indonesia won independence from the Netherlands, and on the 6th of April 1953, Indonesia and Mexico formalized the diplomatic relation. And the Mexican ambassador in Tokyo, Japan, was assigned to handle Indonesia, but in 1961, Indonesia appointed resident ambassador to Indonesia. And this is, I forgot what, commemoration of 60 years or something? Issued the stamp, the tiger of Mexico, tiger, I forgot the name, but from the Sudan, from Indonesia is the Sudanese tiger from jaguar. So that one is jaguar. Okay. They are okay. One change. Okay. Next. So we can see from the exhibition this morning this kind of the archive have and held, up to this. Next. For the high level visit, this is very interesting because from Indonesia high level visit to Mexico we visit 4 times, but from Mexican high level visit now only 4 times. Indonesia is starting with President Sukarno 1960 and 1961. So it's 9 visits. Then President Soeharto, then President Abdul Rahman Wahid, President Megawati, Pak Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, and the last one is Foreign Minister Martin Natalegawa. From Mexican is President Adolfo López Mateo, and then President Carlos Salinas de Gortari, President Enrique Pena Nieto on 2013, Pak SBY, and Minister of Foreign Affairs Antonio Meade, 2013. So Indonesia and Mexico, if you go back to some 1960, next slide. Actually, the joint CANEFO thing is very important that we have to underline because the Conference of the New Emerging Forces or CANEFO is an idea of President Sukarno to form a new consisting of developed countries, offset the 2 major powers at that time, Soviet Union and United States. With this kind of situation, because now there is China, that of Soviet. The purpose of establishing CANEFO at the time was to balance the power of the United States. According to Sukarno, the establishment of the United States was not in the balanced and fair mode. So since it was controlled by superpower countries, I believe the situation almost state. So those of the new emerging forces and the old establishing forces created by Sukarno in September 61 in Belgrade's Conference of the Non-Aligned Countries. And NEFOS and OLDEFOS can be said as a summary of Sukarno ideas in the speech, which entitled to build the world anew. And the bottom line is the New World Order about independence, sovereignty for all nations, the world, and the eradication of colonialism and imperialism. We have some bilateral agreements. Next slide, please. I think from Mr. Foreign Affairs can add some more. I just have this note about this one. Next slide, please. And talking about the Pacific Alliance strategic on platform into acceptance toward modernity, pragmatism, political will to face the challenge of international economic environment, Second one, offer competitive advantage for international business, which is very clear orientation toward Asia Pacific from Pacific Alliance. Next. So Indonesia, Mexico common agenda. I think I underline 5 things. First, internal peace and security. Second is human right. Third, development. Fourth is the last one is the free. I put the blue one, international peace, because I think this is very important. And so Mexico's strength, for me, because strategic one, next time. So it's petroleum, mining, and the very, very, very important is aerospace. If you see that, there's a Bombardier, Honeywell, Safran, Airbus, and even Boeing. Actually, it's actually. Next slide. And Mexico is very rich on the aerospace company. It's about 350 plus something of a company in 2020. So I don't know now is going or not. I think Ambassador can explain that. It's the 14th largest aerospace supplier globally. I think it's involving about annual aerospace industry export on 2019 alone is about 5.5 billion. And Mexico is the 6th largest exporter of components to the United States. And which is Mexico's largest customer consuming nearly 80% of the aerospace production. So this is very interesting. You have to know because people understand how important Mexico regarding this capability. Next slide, please. So Mexico aerospace capabilities regarding engine, cargo doors, landing gear assemblies, electrical system, aircraft technology, and metal turbines. If you are talk, why I really mention this one because I believe going to our country because we are on the next Asia Pacific, we have to make our air force and the navy bigger, and I don't think our fighter jet that we plan with Korea going very well. That's why when I read about Mexico, then I think perhaps the next, perhaps first Minister of Defense can go further with. Next, because of that, I think we have to know that Sukarno dreams about aerospace very big, and at the Mexico today, the city, 30,000, I don't know, 350 companies that spreading around Mexico. I was thinking something like Sister City. Because during a speech in Bandung on 1960 at the opening of the National Congress of Peace, Karno mentioned the 5 stages of World Revolution. First, commercial. Second, industrial. Third, atomic revolution. We did it with Russia and America. Third part, the fourth one is the outer space. Now, space issues are not always reported in the context of conflict in the past, but it's become part of the public business sector with the emergence of the companies such as SpaceX. So of course of that, Mexico and Indonesia must be involved, considering the great use of space science and space technology for both countries' national interest. If I may show you the very important map of aerospace industry of Mexico. You can see from the next slide. So I don't know whether one of this is going to work together with Bandung, that we have the base industry, and or perhaps more to the airspace, so to the capability of further steps, like what Soviet. Because I just came from Moscow and I just finished. I just visited the aeronautics museum, a state of aeronautic museum. I was so amazed that how come people during that time thinking to send people to moon, and now they are trying to China going to conquer the moon, send people to live there. So far that I know from my Moscow visit, they are going to prepare to move. So I think Mexico can work together. So this is my last slide, please. The last one, please. So I think the aerospace agreement should be the next panoramic strategic friendship and cooperation between. Thank you. I have to look this way, not this way.
Muchas gracias, Ibu Koni, for your presentation. So you have explained the information about the cooperation between Indonesia and Mexico from the military perspective, from your field, right? Okay, and then as you already mentioned that Mexico was one of the observant from the non-alignment movement. And then you have already mentioned about the archive, because that's my field. I have read the speech from President Sukarno. In his speech, he told that corn is a symbol food between Indonesia and Mexico, because both countries also eat corn as a staple food. And then he also mentioned about mango. And then you have maybe as your expectation, maybe both Indonesia and Mexico can join the cooperation working on the aerospace. Okay. And then, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, please give big applause to Mrs. Konir Hakundeni. Thank you for your insightful presentation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are moving to the discussion session. So in this session, I would like to divide into two sessions. The first one is for the audience in this room. And then the second session is for the audience on the YouTube channel. So I would like to ask the audience to share your thoughts or maybe question from this discussion. Please raise your hand. Please mention your name. Thank you.
My name is Yansha. I have the question for both Bukoni and Ambassador of Mexico. Considering the conflict in Ukraine that has been for 1 year right now, what should be the response from both Indonesia and Mexico regarding the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine? That's my question. Thank you. And
sorry, can you mention your name? Because we didn't hear it. Hikmar, from Hikmar.
Okay, thank you for the question. Well, Mexico, as I mentioned during my presentation, Mexico is a country that has always been very respectful of international law. And also, it's in favor of promoting a peaceful solution to international conflict. So Mexico, of course, opposes not only the war in Ukraine, but every war. So Mexico has joined the majority of the nations on the earth in condemning the invasion the Russian invasion to Ukraine and asking for immediate initiation of peace talks to find a peaceful solution of the conflict between the two countries. By the way, a conflict that is not only affecting the two countries involved in the conflict, but are affecting practically the entire world because it is causing big disturbance to the international food transportation and meals for the rest of the world. So Mexico is in favor of peace and in favor of an immediate initiation of peace talks between the two countries. And of course, Mexico is in favor of all the initiatives that point toward this end.
Okay, you asked for me as well, right? Okay, for my position, I think since the beginning of the war, I was saying that actually European war is never short. Always take a long period of time, especially because I think this kind of war is very special. It's not between Russia and Ukraine itself, but between Russia towards United States, NATO's countries, and using Ukraine as the field of battle. So I think it's more complicated to solve. I don't know whether we have to thank to that war or not, because I'm afraid if we stop the war if we cannot stop the war, then I think America will need another escape space of battle. And I'm afraid this next space of battle could be Taiwan, could be Sea, could be Papua, and therefore why we really have to see what is the governor of our National Security Council, Oleh said, that we're not going to have a war with America, we're not going to have a war with China. But for sure, if Indonesia cannot build the strong military to protect our sovereignty, then the spillover between those two wars going to affect us. So for me, in this moment, I like to spend my condolences as well. Because last night I was called by Moscow around 1:30 or 2 p.m. I'm sorry, 2 a.m. And Prigozhin train is crashed and he was passed away last night. So I'm very sorry to say that, and we really hope that actually the war will be ended. But again, we cannot take it for granted, and we have to prepare ourselves. And therefore, I was mentioning why we have to tighten our relationship with Mexico, since I'm not satisfied with our relationship with Korea during for the IFX, KFX. So perhaps we can move or work together with Mexico to strengthen our Air Force. And it's not only Air Force, because perhaps we have to talk some more to other Latin American countries who produce, the naval ship.
I would like to ask other participants to share your thoughts or questions about our today's seminar, please. Raise your hand. Okay, while we are waiting about, okay, we have another question, please.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Ambassador Ibu Koni. Nice to meet you. Ibu Mira, nice to meet you as well. I would like to express my gratitude to Henri. I'm Nova from Hidden Heritage Creative Hub. We've been working together with Mexican Embassy and as well as the Arsip Nasional Republik Indonesia, and we're very pleased to see these exhibitions and this seminar finally putting on place. And in this occasion, we would like to say thank you for the excellent collaborations that has been going on for this entire years between Mexican's embassy with our another partner, which is Museum Bahari Jakarta. And we are very keen to have another collaborations with the Mexico embassy as well. We've been finding lots of heritage sharing, in fact, between Indonesia and Mexico in terms of arts and culture, which is kind of surprising as well for us that we actually have lots of in commons in terms of arts and cultures with Mexico. And it is our sincere hope that within this year we can strengthen our collaborations in many aspects. And we really would like to see that our friendship will flourish, strengthened again in these years. And once again, we would say thank you for the opportunity that you have given to our arts and cultures institutions to work together with the Mexican embassy, which is very rare occasions for us as well. And we also would like to say thank you, Ibu Koni, for attending the conference. It's been quite sometimes I meet you again in this occasion before we met in British Embassy events as a Chevening alumni. Thank you. Once more, we would like to express that Indonesia and Mexico have a very long historical journey already, and we would like to support this in terms of arts and culture collaborations. And we would like to see also the involvement for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to use the museums as the agency of arts and cultures as well, to strengthen our relationship not only with Mexico but also with other institutions in the embassy. Thank you.
So do we have another question or maybe thoughts about our today's webinar? Please raise your hand. Okay, while we are waiting, maybe from YouTube session, I would like to ask your perspective from SWOT analysis between Indonesia and Mexico. SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunities and threat in forging the ties between two countries.
As I mentioned during my presentation, the trade and investment between Mexico and Indonesia has been steadily growing during the last decades. However, we have to recognize that our economic exchanges are still far behind the size of our economies. The size of our economy. Our economies are two of the largest economies in the world, and our trade relations are not yet at the height that they should be. That is why both foreign ministers and both business communities are working together. Next year, my Director General for Asia Pacific is coming to Indonesia to hold bilateral conversations with His Excellency Umar Hadi, which is the Director General for AMEROP, America and Europe, at the KEMLU. And of course, some of the points that they will discuss are related to trade and investment, and also to instruments of cooperation. One instrument of cooperation that we have recently finished negotiating was one on halal industries. We are aware that, being Indonesia the largest Muslim country in the world, or the country where more Muslim people in the world, it's a very important market for halal products. Mexico has a very good quality meat and beef that will eventually allow Indonesia to diversify its sources of foreign beef and other products. Also, the two business organizations of Mexico and Indonesia, like CADIN here and COMSE in Mexico, have just finished negotiating an MOU of cooperation. A very important thing is that the relations should not be concentrated only in G2G, as it was said before, in government to government, but also people to people, and especially business to business. So we are encouraging the business of the two countries to know each other. The only way that we can increase our relation is knowing better each other, knowing about the business opportunities that are open in Indonesia for Mexican business people, and the other way around, the business opportunities that are in Mexico for Indonesian business people. During the visit of my Director General next week, he will also meet both with the Director General of International Commercial Negotiations of the Trade Minister, and also he will have a meeting at CADIN, at the CADIN building in Rasuna Said, to discuss business opportunities both with the government and with the business people in Indonesia. But the only way that we can put our economic relations at the height that it should be, at the height that corresponds to the size of our economies, is working together with the business community to showcase the opportunities that both countries offer for trade, joint ventures, investment, and technical cooperation. That what I was saying. We don't have so far a privileged way of trading between Mexico and Indonesia. I mentioned, for instance, that Chile has a bilateral free trade agreement with Indonesia. We still don't have one. So the most likely possibility to have a privileged business agreement between the two countries is that, Indonesia is admitted into the Pacific Alliance, as Singapore was recently, as an associated member, or that Indonesia decides to join the CPTPP, which other countries in the region have already done, like Singapore, like Malaysia, like Brunei, or Vietnam. But apart from that, because that will take time, the only way to increase our trade and investment is the one that I already mentioned. Is we don't have a larger economic relation because we don't know each other. So what we need to know is to know each other, to let the Mexican business people what is going on here in Indonesia, that a new capital is being built in Indonesia, that perhaps is the largest infrastructure project in the world, the one that you are doing right now in Nusantara, and that in Mexico we have similar infrastructure projects like like the Mayan train in all the southeast part of the country, like a new airport for Mexico City, like a new refinery in the Gulf Coast, like a new dry canal that you see the form of Mexico has like a waste Mexico in South Mexico. There's a isthmus between the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean. We're finishing the construction of a dry canal between the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean that will serve the products from Asia to cross to the east coast of America and to Europe. So the only way to increase our relation is to involve business people. Governments can set the table, but they cannot do business. The business should be done by business people. They are the ones who bet their talent, their money, their time, and they are the ones who should be persuaded, should be encouraged to have more relation with each other. And that is precisely what we are doing along with Kemlu, along with.
Yeah, to ask from your.
Thank you very much. Maybe my approach will not be SWOT, because if I'm talking about SWOT, I will be failed by Bukoni in the class. Well, firstly, we have achieved many things during these 70 years. But for us, the most important is not being satisfied just that. We have to go beyond. And I fully agreed with Ambassador Armando, in which there is many things that we can still work on. Like, for example, in trade, the number is positive in a sense that there is increase and so on, but it doesn't yet reflect on the real potential. And I also want to convey that diplomacy is not only the work of diplomats. It's not only the work of government. Every one of you can be a diplomat, can represent your country, and can help to strengthen, let's say, with Mexico. Even the student of high school, you can do that. Now with the internet, you can have connection with students from Mexico and start, I don't know, project which you are much more knowledgeable than me. But like, for example, museum also can play a part. So the diplomacy is not, you please don't see it as a work of diplomats, not as work of government. Even not, our embassy is not the representative of Kemlu, the representative of Indonesia as a whole. So you can play your role as a student, as a businessman, as an academician, as from Arsip, from museum, everything you can do and to strengthen. And this can help to strengthen another 70 or 100 years of relation. So what we achieved with Mexico during these 70 years is positive. But we cannot just satisfy with that 70 years. We have to know and diversify in terms of cooperation, in terms of everything. So, Bu, the aerospace is noted, Bu, and we will work together. And there is many MOUs that can happen. Mentioned halal. Maybe in the past 30 years, Mexico doesn't even thought that halal can be a cooperation. So we cannot underestimate, or we cannot say, take it for granted. There is many area and there's many sectors that can be cooperated in the future. So like I remember when I was going to college at that time, well, many years ago, that information technology wasn't known. And my friend went there and I asked him, what is information technology is, or what is computer, and what will you become at that time? And my friend, jokingly speaking, well, I will be selling computer in Pasar Baru, because we never know. But now he's much richer than me, because he's a programmer. He earned much more money than me as a civil servant. So there is a huge range of room to improve this bilateral relation. We have the strength, we have the weakness, and so on. The threat is also quite big. We don't know. In this world, we never know that 2 or 5 years ago that there will be a crisis globally like Ukraine. We didn't know the COVID. 2 years, almost 2 years, we didn't do anything. Knock wood, hopefully there is no more crisis, but we never know. So that threat should be also addressed bilaterally, laterally. So we are much more prepared. So this is what I think. 70 years we have done, but there is no room just to satisfy 70. Hopefully we can have more 70, 100 years old, more relation with Mexico, much more strengthened. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vicky. And I would like to add, maybe we can learn from the Mexico how to be a host in World Cup. Okay, I would like to ask your opinion, Mrs. Connie, about the SWOT analysis between Indonesia and Mexico.
Okay, I don't know what to say because everything is by the ambassador and from foreign affairs. But I like to underline, you know, for me, aircraft is a new weapon. So that's why my presentation mentioning about the first encounter of Mexicans in our region, and then the cross-relation between Philippines, but again with Tidore. So I think by that we can deepening our relation with Mexico, aircraft issue. But in the near future, and I mean very near future, because I met Ambassador Lukang, ambassador from China, and I mentioned about the National Security Council predictions about the war or spillover of war in our nations or our area on 2037, which is 14 years from now. And interestingly, Ambassador of China, Ambassador Lukang is my good friend, said that anything can be faster. Exactly like you said. Because China will just wait and see, prefer starting badly in terms of China national interest, then perhaps the war is not 14 years from now, it's 2037, it's going to be faster. By then, I'm not going to mention about the SWOT, but I just mentioned about one. The opportunity is let's get Mexico to work together with us, strengthening our aerospace capability, and many others. I think my very point, because again, I have to underline for my perspective, I'm so upset that our KX with Korea doesn't work for many years since Pak Purnomo Yusiantoro office in the Ministry of Defense. It's almost 15 years now. So I really hope by knowing that Mexico actually have the 350 capability of airspace industries, then we can do it. That's right.
Yeah, maybe we can start right away. Yeah. I would like to add a little bit information when we are talking about 70. In 1970, Mexico became the host for World Cup. And also in 1970 was a mourning years for Indonesian people because in that year, President Sukarno passed away. So we have something with number of 70. Okay, I would like to move to the second session of our discussion, and we have the question from the YouTube channel from Sakti Bara from West Jakarta for Mrs. Connie. Why could Indonesia and Mexico survive during Cold War as a third country? Please.
I think the answer is very simple. When during the St. Petersburg meeting weeks ago regarding the Russia-Africa relations, I was so shocked because of that. In that meeting, there's coming a very good young president from Burkina Faso, and the speech is very short, only 10 minutes, but can shake the Africans. And now you can see Africa is moving ahead. First, I think they want to get rid of France. Second thing is how Putin involved on erasing all the debt of Africa, is going to put the grain help for Africa, and then the last one is to have the defense of for Africa. So what I'm saying is, why then Indonesia is like left behind suddenly? Why now is Russia-Africa relation is seems more stronger? And therefore, during President Jokowi preparing trip to Johannesburg, I text him and I said, please, Mr. President, mentions about the Asia-Africa in Bandung spirit. And now it's not only Asia-Africa, but Asia-Africa plus China and Russia. Because then I think we are going to strengthen and balance and survive from the question that just is been sent to me. And I'm so happy. Yesterday I was reading the newspaper, and the headline is President Sukarno mentioning, no, President Jokowi mentioning we have to revisit Bandung Space. I think I really hope that Minister of Foreign Affairs now of not only reopening the desk of the non-alignment, but really build the very special divisions of the new alignment movement. I think that's my.
Thank you, Mrs. Koni. Before I close this seminar, I would like to ask the closing remarks from our speakers for today's discussion, starting from Mr. Ambassador, Ibu Koni, and Mr. Vicky.
Well, to conclude my participation in this seminar, I would like to reiterate the great appreciation of the Embassy of Mexico, not only myself, also my colleagues, Pa Alonso, who is sitting there, Pa Ivan. Alonso is Deputy Chief of Mission. Pa Ivan is the one in charge of economic affairs. So you have to see this project with with Pa Ivan. And of course, Abby, I don't know where Abby is, but Abby is the Indonesian lady who works at the embassy in this cultural section, and she has been working very, very hard for this exhibition. She has been visiting the museum several days and planning along with the museum all the setup of the exhibition. So she's not here, but if you see him, tell her that we appreciate very much her job. And of course, the hospitality of the Indonesian National Archive. It's a marvelous building, which has to do with I was mentioning in my presentation. We both are countries with an large and impressive historical, archaeological treasures, and this is one of them. It's marvelous to have a seminar in a building like this, and surrounded by the hospitality of the people of the Indonesian National Archive. Of course, the Director General Pagunarto of the archive. My greatest appreciation to you and all your team, to my colleagues in the panel, to the moderator, and to the people who graciously attended this event in person or through internet. Thank you again, and long life to the Mexico and Indonesia friendship and cooperation.
Thank you.
I think I will say the same thing. Thank you so much, and all the staff. For me, the most important thing, I think this event is held in life. Why I mentioned regarding our old stories about Mexico region, because I really hope Andre or National Aircraft will fly there to Mexico, and I don't know why we're gonna be surprised to find to dig some archive from how that ships visit and everything, because as you know that we just know that Tidore have relationship with Mexico, but why it happened and when it happens, and things like that, we really have for that. And the other things again, for Minister of Foreign Affairs, I send my regards to Ibu Menlu. I just want to emphasize two things. I think first, we really have to strengthen the relations against, because for me, to be honest, because of appointed by Andre, then I know that Mexico is having this capability of very important. So again, thank you for inviting and having me here, and looking forward to actually strengthening or deepening the relations between.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the ministry, obviously, thank you very much to be invited and to celebrate this special occasion. 70 years we have been together. There are many things that we have done, but we have to work harder. I'm almost like a staff of the Embassy of Mexico because I'm very connected with Alban, and obviously the Minister of Foreign Affairs is open and ready to have much more 70 years. And not trying to be romantic, but I remember a quote from a Spanish writer, Juan Donoso Cortés. Maybe Pablo and Ivan have known it. Hay que unirse no para estar juntos, sino para hacer algo junto. It is necessary to not unite, not to be together, but to do something together. I think that is what we need to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Speaking. Okay, I would like to inform the information from the committee that the committee has provided electronic certificates for online audience by filling the evaluation form shared by the committee. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the discussion session. Sorry, my mistake. I'm a little bit nervous actually. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, distinguished guests, thank you for your attention and participation. We have come to the end of our seminar. I hope you have enjoyed this session and gained some valuable insights and knowledge from our speakers. Thank you so much for your visit to the National Archive. I hope we can strengthen the tie between Indonesia and Mexico. Thank you, good afternoon, and buenas tardes. Yeah, now I transfer my job to the MC, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So let's give another big round of applause to our amazing speakers and moderator. Our amazing speakers, Mr. Iwan Freddy Hari Susanto, Mr. Armando Gonzalo Alvarez, and Mrs. Connie Rahakundini Bakti MSI, and to our amazing moderator, Ms. Octavia Saraswat. And excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the end of this event.
We as the presenters today would like to deliver our sincere gratitude to everybody who already attended this event since this morning.
And we would like to apologize if there are any wrongdoings or actions that are less pleasing.
And we are looking forward to seeing you in other opportunities.
And we would also like to invite all of the delegates, guests, and ambassadors to visit the archive building of Sukarno. But however, we would like to notify that the building is currently on a revitalization process. So be careful, but please do enjoy the tour. And
good afternoon.
Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to everyone that came today.
Bagi Bapak Ibu yang sudah mengikuti seminar baik secara